Hey everyone, welcome to Pellucidum Part 2. So this is my entry into the Corsair Crystal 570X case modding competition. You can now go and vote on the entries. I'm not sure how much longer voting is open for, so you better go and check it out. There are some incredible entries. I'll put a link in the video description. My favorite is Twister, by the way. Before I get started, I have to bring up something that is very important, and I'm going to do a subscriber update video soon to cover this in a lot more detail. A common theme in the comments, and something that's coming up every day now. People mentioned it at PAX. I've had people mention it to me on the street. It's just everybody. Is that I'm not maximizing my potential. And I know exactly what people are talking about, because this comes down to a very strong decision that I made when I started this channel and principles that I have always stuck to. The reason I do this is because I love it. I started this channel because I had a terminal condition, I had a short amount of time to live, and in the time I had left, I wanted to do something that I loved, that made me happy. This was my therapy. And it turns out that my therapy worked, obviously, because I'm still here. But, you know, just to give you some background on why I have these strong principles. I've never liked people who, you know, sell out to the big manufacturers and just do all this advertising, and you know, people, when you can really see that they're just doing it for gain, that there's no passion, there's no, you know, love. It's just, you know, I hate that. I really do. And I've always wanted to stay far from it. But now people are seeing that I'm not taking some really low-hanging fruit, and they're just thinking you must be crazy or maybe lazy, I don't know. Or to some people it just looks like I don't care. So basically, you know, all of you want to see me, or most of you want to see me do well and succeed, and you don't really mind. You know, you want me to do these things that I'm not doing. And so I've decided to make some changes. I'm not saying that I'm going to sell out and everything's going to change overnight. It's just that I am going to, like, for example, we've had Amazon affiliate links for 2 years, but not once have I ever mentioned it. That could make a huge difference for us. So the Amazon affiliate links are in the video description. My products, something that I've put years of work into and a huge amount of resources. And, you know, when I use my products in a build, I mention them for a few seconds, whereas I've spoken about EK and bits power for hundreds of hours on this channel. So yeah, I am going to definitely work a little bit more on, you know, changing these principles. And I'm glad that people are, you know, intelligent enough to understand what I'm doing, and that this is a passion for me. And yeah, I mean, everything that we do is for the channel. 100% of the profits from our components go towards the channel. So from any success that I have is just going to go straight back to all of the viewers. Let's get into it. You can see that I've built the loop and I'm now about to fill it. And I'm using the incredible nanofluid from Mayhem's Pastel White. A lot of people don't know that this is a nanofluid. They think that the whole pastel opaque thing is purely for aesthetics. Well, this coolant is one of those unique and awesome situations where function came first, and from the function came form. Because the purpose of a nanofluid, I mean, there's a few purposes, but the main one being an improvement in temperatures. And I have found, I've tested this a number of times under different circumstances, an average of 2 to 3 degrees improvement over Mayhem's X1 with this coolant, because it is a nanofluid. But at the same time, this very unique aesthetic was created. So it's an awesome coolant. Now, I've seen the whole coolant debate a lot again recently, and I saw it again a couple of days ago. Now, always when anyone has a problem with a loop, whether it be clogging or corrosion or discoloration, the coolant is always blamed, and the same answer is always given, no matter what. It is always use distilled water, and sometimes it's used distilled water with a kill coil. People still don't realize, and I hopefully am going to put this one to bed for good, that you can't just use distilled water in a loop. I don't care what anyone says. And here's the proof. If you drink distilled water it can kill you quite quickly. The reason being, in your body are salts or metals, which are very important for your survival. Calcium, more of a kind of long-term one, but potassium, sodium, and magnesium, I mean, if you get low in potassium, for example, it can kill you very quickly, heart failure, kidney failure. And if you drink distilled water, it leaches these metals out of your body. It sucks them out, it attracts them. Well, it does the exact same thing in your loop. Your loop is, a lot of it is made of metal. The plating is metal. And it leaches this metal. It sucks it into the distilled water, almost like an acid. It corrodes it. It's extremely corrosive. It's no different to putting a light acid in your loop. It's very destructive. And, if you keep changing the distilled water very, very often, it's going to kind of lessen the problems and increase the amount of time that you can use it for, but you are absolutely guaranteed to have severe corrosion within quite a short period, probably 6 months. And not just corrosion, but also buildup, because you're going to get galvanic corrosion where you get an anode and a cathode. So in some areas, you get corrosion. In other areas, you get buildup. Now, if your entire loop was the same metal, you might be able to avoid this, but the slight differences, mainly if you add a silver kill coil, that's going to make it even worse, because then you have the purest, well, not the purest, but almost the purest metal, silver, combined with less pure metals like brass and copper. So yeah, that's actually going to increase the corrosion even more. But at least people have finally realized, or are starting to realize, that you do need a biocide. That's the two things you need from a fluid that you are going to use in a loop. You need a biocide to stop algae growth, because it's a perfect environment for algae growth with the temperature. And you also need anti-corrosives. And then you're not going to have any problems. And I have water-cooled systems that are out there that have been running for 6 years now, over 6 years, with Mayhem's Coolant, X1 and Pastel, and they're still running without any kind of a problem. Hard tube is also an important aspect of that. A lot of the problems that we experienced with water cooling back in the early days, most importantly clogging, but also discoloration, comes from soft tube. And even if you only have a short length of soft tube in your loop, you're still going to potentially have those problems. The discoloration problem, I've just seen that so many times, and a lot of the time you think, oh, well, they don't have any soft tube, but then you look and there's a little length of it hiding down in the bottom of their build somewhere, and that is the obvious cause of the problem. I won't go into what causes that, I've mentioned it many times, but yeah, I just wanted to cover all of that in detail again. Now, I didn't actually make it to PAX, a member of the SingularityComputers team went, but he told me something out of the nearly 1,000 or so people that he spoke to over the 3 days. He experienced the same thing from almost all of them. So many of them were, really excited about the idea of water cooling, but they'd never done it before, but they really wanted to, but they're apprehensive about it. Obviously the cost and all of that, but seriously, once you do it once, you have the bug, and you are going to do anything you can to find a way of doing more water cooling. But the thing was, I realized something that I obviously realized way back when I started my channel, that water cooling was a niche thing, something that is difficult to get into, difficult to find the right information about. I mean, that's really changed now, but when I started my channel, there was nowhere to get information. It was very elitist and kind of, this tightly knit group of people who really wanted to keep it that way. And that's something that I wanted to change. I wanted to bring new people in and share it with everybody. But for a long time now, I have only catered to my viewers, my long-time subscribers. And so I've tried to kind of just every time increase the level of what I'm covering, the complexity. Sometimes I go back to the basics a little bit, but most of the time I'm stepping it up and up in terms of the complexity, so that the long-time viewers, I'm talking, at least 2 or 3 years, are able to continue to improve. But I'd really like to go back and talk about the basics again, like I used to a lot in the old days, just occasionally to help newcomers, because a lot of the people that come to this channel probably just leave thinking, no, this is way over their heads, they don't understand it, what it's all about. I think it would be good to, have some really good beginner videos for water cooling. Because that's the most exciting part, starting when all of it is unknown. For me, that was definitely the most exciting part. And I always envy people who come to me, I get these emails saying, oh, I'm doing my first water cooled build. I don't know what fittings to get, help me with this and that. And I try to help people as much as I can when I have time, but I really envy their position, being right at the start of all of it. And just, it's such an amazing experience. It brings back great memories. And that's why I continue to step it up, and I'm now building my own components. It's not because I want to, just make a huge profit out of it. It's because it's the next step that somebody like me takes. After all of these years of doing this, I'm not just going to stagnate and keep doing the same thing. I'm going to keep pushing the boundaries. The system is now complete. I really wish I could have gone into a lot more detail in this build log because there is so much that I could have talked about, but there certainly wasn't time to do all of the necessary filming to make that possible. You can see that we're now putting the build into this amazing flight case that Corsair has shipped us. It's a Pelican flight case. We now build our own flight cases. They have a unique design. They're completely built from aluminium, and we can build them to fit absolutely any case. So make sure you check them out. There's a link in the video description. This is the manifold. It's a model of the manifold, so this is actually what would have gone into the build if we had have completed it as I envisioned. And, I definitely regret that I didn't complete it as I envisioned, but this was still an amazing experience, an incredible opportunity, and all thanks to Corsair. So a huge thanks to Corsair, and I can't wait to work with them again in the future. One of our fans is coming to the rescue. Somebody is actually going to fund us to complete the manifold because he just wants to see it out there. He saw that we were unable to complete it, and given the time and the resources, we can do anything and certainly complete this manifold. I mean, it's nearly finished as it is, but most importantly, the ideas that we have for it, which haven't been done previously. So you will see it in the future. Thanks for watching, and remember that none of this would be possible without our patrons.